So, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Jonnychipz Weekly. My name is John Lunn, aka Jonnychipz, and this is episode number 74 on Friday, the 27th of May, 2022. And this week we're going to jump into the Microsoft Build Book of News. So, hi everybody and welcome. Thank you for joining me on this Friday afternoon over here in the UK. Hope you've had a fantastic week at work. I've been at the Build UK event this week, which has been massively exciting. Some great announcements. Well, lots of announcements, basically. Fantastic to catch up with all the fantastic community peeps that were at Build over in Reading this week. Hello everybody again. It's been a good week. Work busy as usual. Build. Lots of community stuff going on. So this week's episode, we're going to focus on the Microsoft Build Book of News. We're going to go and do a few community callouts to start off with. But I think what we'll do is we'll just concentrate on the 50 plus announcements that came out of Build this week. So without further ado, let's jump on over and do some community callouts. So yeah, as I mentioned, we'll be going through this in a second. In terms of the Book of News, we'll be taking a look at some of the announcements. We won't be delving into all of them because there are over 50 announcements that have come out of Build this week. So we'll be taking a look at that in a second. But just to kind of pick up a few highlights from the community this week, we'll kick things off with Olivier Bloch. Again, this is part of a Build announcement that we'll probably touch upon in a little second. But this is close to my heart, something I'm really keen to get involved with and take a look at. But it's that element of digital twins when we're looking at IoT and devices, sensors, that kind of stuff. How do we map that out in a 3D space? There's been some fantastic announcements that Olivier is just kind of bringing to our attention here on the IoT blog about mapping out those 3D scenes within the studio for Azure. So yeah, it's fantastic stuff, fantastic innovation in terms of how do we get started with some of this stuff. So going to take a look at that. Really good to see. Next up, in terms of news, it was great to see there were a whole bunch of these for beginner series. Now, if you saw my conversation with Jim Bennett a couple of weeks back, we talked about the IoT for beginners. That series seems to have come across now a lot of different areas, and this is just the AI for beginners area that Dimitri is kind of retweeting. Again, it came out the back of Build. Like I say, there's been so many different announcements come out. It's fantastic to see. I just wanted to call this out because, of course, if you are looking to get started in that world of AI, how do I get started? What can I work on? How do I learn some of the concepts? aka.ms/AI-beginners. Go and take a look at that. There's a series of courses, series of structured learning exercises that will hopefully fill in a lot of the blanks for you and kind of get you up and running and get you started with learning AI. Keeping it in the AI/IoT space, fantastic to catch up with Chris this week as well. It's great to start to see some of these awesome people in the community face to face and actually say hello properly for the first time. So Chris was one of those guys. Great to see you, Chris. We had a brief chat about this FOMO. So in terms of the object detection for those smaller constrained memory devices, those kind of microprocessor type devices. Edge Impulse have got this learning course, I guess, this doc that we can run through and learn about FOMO, which I don't know what FOMO means, but I'll have to look that up. But yeah, Chris has just retweeted that. We did have a brief chat about this, so it's kind of on my list of things to have a look at. So yes, lovely to see and great to see you, Chris. Next up, Freak has released an updated version of his book on bicep. So if you are looking, I can't recommend this book highly enough. It was the first book that I kind of looked through to get myself started on doing a little bit with bicep and just understanding the concepts and the syntax and things like that. Obviously, things are so fast moving in terms of syntax and updates to the language, essentially, and what's going on there. That Freak has done an update. So like I say, I've got the book sat down the side of me there. Can't recommend that highly enough. If you're looking for a book on bicep, look no further. Go and check that out. Thanks, Freak. Yes, okay. So, as part of Build, it was announced. Obviously, Abel Wang has been such a massive part of Build over the years that he's left a huge gap there with his sad passing last year. Now, in order to kind of keep his spirit and memory alive as part of Build, April has launched this campaign to raise £10,000 for girls who code. Go and check that out. aka.ms build 2022 donate. It's a fantastic cause and it's in memory of Abel. So if you can spare a few pounds or whatever you can spare, please do go and sign up and donate what you can. But that would be awesome. And so that was a great thing to see as part of Build as well. And finally, Shabazz has launched a new series on YouTube about basically doing some book reviews. So cool to see. You can see there he's kicked things off with the first book review with Dwayne's book on SC300, which is cool to see. So good work, Shabazz. Looking forward to seeing some more of those reviews coming forward soon. So yeah, if you want to go and support Shabazz on that, go and check him out on his YouTube channel or follow him on Twitter. It's probably easier. You get all the links then to his YouTubes and go and take a look at that. Okie dokie, let's jump back on over. So yes, so in terms of, we'll get to the book of news in a second, but what I quickly wanted to do was just basically kind of set the scene as to what I've been up to this week with Jonnychipz on the side. So let's just take a quick look at that. So yeah, first up, huge shout out to my guest last week in conversation with, it was the Azure Cloud Native user group team, which is April, Richard, Carl and Robert. So huge thanks to those guys for coming on and kind of, talking cloud native, and there are overloaded terminologies, mixed messaging, mixed understandings, I guess, of the thing. So great to join those guys and kind of set a few of those things to well, maybe not to bed, but certainly, give a bit more clarity around that space. But if you missed that last week, please do go and check out the playlist below. Go and give that a watch. It was a great episode, but it is Friday, so we've got another episode coming out tonight, and it is with none other than Kat Green. And so Kat joins me. We talk a whole heap of things. Kat is so doing so well in the community at the moment. She's doing some fantastic things with, obviously YouTube, the podcast that she's on, but also on TikTok. So we kind of have a chat around that. How she got into tech, how she got to the point of, she works fundamentally a lot with 365 and Teams and Viva. So, that she's doing some fantastic things, like I say. So we have a great chat. Join us tonight, 6:30 p.m. BST if you can. And yeah, drop us your comments and any feedback that you've got on that. But yeah, it's such a great experience catching up with Kat. Like I say, when you see people in the community doing some wonderful things, it's always great. I find it fantastic to be able to reach out and just go, hey, that's fantastic. How you doing? And have that chat to begin with. So, it was no different with Kat as well. So thanks for joining me tonight, Kat. And yeah, for everybody else, please, I hope to see you there. Okay, so in other news, big shout out to DevOps Derek, get me a code to get me some swag. I haven't had some swag for a little while, but this time it's Octopus Deploys swag. So you can see I've got a whole bunch of stickers there that I'm going to find some rightful homes for. A couple of t-shirts, cap, pair of socks I think I had in there. So yeah, great. Thank you so much for getting that sent over, Derek, and I will wear it with pride. So yeah, go and check that out as well. Obviously, Octopus Deploy, if it's something you've not looked into, which for me it isn't. I've seen a few bits and pieces from community folk, and certainly from Derek himself. So I'm gonna go and get that checked out and see how I can use it in my day job if I can. But anyhow. Moving on to Build. Yes, what a fantastic day. So I was honoured and privileged, obviously, to be asked to, in the first instance, to attend as on invite to Thames Valley Park in Reading, where on Wednesday they had the UK event, the UK live sessions at Build. So I was moderating a couple of sessions, and Chris and April asked me to speak about learning in public and things like that. So it was really fantastic experience. One, to kind of see Chris and April in action doing, hitting out the park in terms of hosting the UK Build event. But it was great to catch up with other community folk. There's Luce there, we're in the green room getting hair and makeup done, can you believe? and eventually I ended up on stage. It was great to meet Adam, to meet Chris and April in person, and all the other. I lost count. There was probably at least 20, 25 people that I'd kind of got to know, to a certain level across the last couple of years being in community. So it was great to kind of say hello properly. So yeah, ended up there. Thanks to James was there as well, and he's retweeted a picture there. So it's great to kind of be on the stage with April and Chris, albeit for a few minutes just to say hello and have a bit of a chat. But really good fun experience. So there we go. Can't have a picture without Pete there, can you, at the end of the day? So yeah, and Cliff, I didn't get a picture with Cliff. I don't know why. Needed to have done. But yeah, like I say, there were so many people there that I'd said hello to and, kind of met up that, brilliant. So fantastic day on Wednesday. Still buzzing from it, to be honest. So that's the Jonnychipz on the side for this bit. Let me just flick back to my big face cam. And I think what we will do now is we'll jump on over and take a look at the Microsoft Build book of news. There's not going to be any news. I'm going to keep the same desktop scene rather than my news scene because I think we need to see the articles. So let's go and take a look. Yes, okay, so for those of you that don't know, whenever there's a major Microsoft event like Ignite or Build or something along those lines, typically Microsoft will release this article called the Book of News on the day of the first day of the event, effectively, which acts as a bit of a glossary of things that are being announced or new things that are going to be announced during the course of the particular event. And Build is no different. So we've had the Build Book of News for May 24th to 26th for this year, 2022. So you can see Microsoft's goal with the Book of News is to provide us with a guide to all the announcements that are being made. There are well over 50 announcements this year at Build, which is great. So I thought what we would do is kind of just jump in. Table of contents, you can see there's, a fair chunk around Azure, some bits and pieces around developer communities, in particular Microsoft Learn, Microsoft Loop, Microsoft Teams, there's a whole bunch of updates there, and then the Power Platform, a whole bunch there, and Microsoft Edge and Windows. So I'm not going to jump in and read every one of these out verbatim, but I thought if we go through, just briefly skim through some of the Azure announcements. Now, as you can see, first off, we've got a whole bunch of Azure AI announcements. We've got then Azure Cloud Native and the App Platform announcements. The Azure Data Area, Hybrid, we've got infrastructure announcements, migration and modernization, developer tools, and DevOps. So I think we'll skim through as much of these as we can, and we'll quickly take a brief look at some of the other areas. But like I say, there are 50 plus updates. So if you do want to read these in detail, just do a quick Google search or head on over to news.microsoft.com and look for the Build Book of News for 2022 there. Okay, so let's get started. Azure and Azure AI. You can see that the first announcement is they've had a whole bunch of cognitive services updates, so that provide model language assistance, which is great to see. They've always been updating the cognitive services platform, reaching out to multiple, more and more languages, being able to kind of do text speech to text, that kind of stuff in terms of cognitive services for languages. So one of the updates was that it now offers a summarization for documents and conversations. So a new capability that helps developers quickly surface key information in documents and contact center calls, such as the reason for the call and resolution. Now, I saw a brief demo of this, and it was pretty cool that you can kind of feed in these documents and it will very quickly bring up a summarization checklist of what is in that particular document. Or you can imagine a conversation, a spoken word conversation that's being converted to text. This can be run over it then to summarize that conversation, which is super, clever to see. But that's the first announcement. Go and take a look at that in more detail. Next up, we've got machine learning responsible AI dashboard. So it's really about helping developers accelerate those deployment of AI models. So the dashboard brings together multiple capabilities such as the Azure Data Explorer, which I think has been raised in profile of things like time series insights and things like that. So fairness, model interpretability, error analysis, and counterfactual and causal inference analysis. So it's about kind of helping developers debug those models as quickly as possible. So that's great to see. Again, if you want to read more on that, go and check that out. Forms Recognizer. So there's new capabilities that are in preview. So new document processing scenarios can be unlocked now, such as streamlining patient check-in and vaccine verification with insurance card and vaccine card pre-built models, things like that. Azure bot services and Power Virtual Agents have been integrated into that citizens developer ecosystem to help people build those bots in a collaborative environment. They're taking that further. We've got so many bits and pieces. Azure Metrics Advisors has now got new auto-tuning capabilities. So yeah, like I say, there's a whole heap of things in terms of AI that are going on. I'll just quickly skim through now. We'll have a look at some of the cloud native and app platforms. So I think one of the most obvious things is that Azure Container Apps has now gone generally available. I mean, it was great to see that kind of cut down version of, you've got one or two, small container apps that you just need to spin up into a group and get them up and running. And this is where Azure Container Apps came from, is, fundamentally it's running on Kubernetes under the hood, but you kind of don't need to know about that. This is kind of all abstracted away for those smaller applications that we can just put in. And maybe we don't need to do some of the more complex orchestration that would warrant something like an AKS or a Kubernetes cluster in its own right. Container Apps has now gone GA. So like I say, it's enabling customers to run those microservices and those containerized apps on that serverless platform. And you can see there that it is built on top of Kubernetes. So it's great to see. Azure Communication Services, mobile user interface library. So at the end of the day, these libraries for building mobile apps or Windows apps, whatever it may be, there's a whole library of ACS components now. So the release includes support for 13 languages, accessibility for UI components, and the ability to view shared screen content, including pinch to zoom, a key feature for mobile users. It's fantastic to see, and I think it's built on the same technologies that Teams is built on in terms of screen sharing and video calling and things like that. But it's great to see that ACS is now that open sort of platform in terms of APIs and functionality SDKs to build build those communications workflows into your mobile apps now with that new library. Great to see. Quickly flicking down, let me just see. So we've done container apps and communication services. A whole bunch, Spring Cloud, enhancements to developer experience on AKS, Kubernetes service. Service Bus Explorer support in the Azure portal is now available, which is a nice, interesting one to see. We've got updates to the Azure API management and the Azure App Service. Let's have a quick look what the Azure App Service updates are. So Google Remote Procedure Call support. Okay, we've got the App Service Landing Zone Accelerator has been released. The accelerator is a combination of documentation automation to help customers deploy a reference enterprise scale deployment of Azure App Service. That's good to see. We can build those into our landing zone deployments now and offer customers a quick instant setup of an app service effectively as part of that landing zone environment. Azure App Service bulk migration capabilities. Cool to see. So awesome announcements on that front. And moving down is your data. Let's see if we can pick out a few data announcements. So obviously SQL Server 2022 is in preview. The new intelligent data platform unifies databases, analytics, and governance, which I heard quite a few bits of noise around, to be honest with you. So the intelligent data platform, now generally available, is a new integrated platform that unifies databases, analytics, and governance, empowering organizations to invest more time creating value than integrating and managing a fragmented data estate. And look, that is one of the big problems, I think, when it comes to speaking to anybody in data in terms of, the kind of disparate siloed database configurations and storage areas across that have grown kind of organically over years within business. That essentially the intelligent data platform looks to bring all of that together and have that kind of central control plane that we can do all of that kind of analytics and governance piece, which is cool to see. Other news in data. Let's have a look. Updates to Microsoft Purview data. So data policy for SQL DevOps roles is now in preview. So Purview. So if you remember, a few weeks back, Microsoft renamed a lot of their governance tooling and features to Microsoft Purview, which kind of spans that whole 365 and the Azure platform feel around it. So there's been a few announcements. So data policy for SQL DevOps roles is now in preview, and data estate insights will allow users to get a bird's eye view on their data estate's health and governance programs adoptions, which so you can see Microsoft really trying to help us bring all of our platforms together in a consolidated manner. Next up, let's have a quick look at hybrid announcements. There's been a couple. So there's new accelerator and data service offerings for Azure Arc, and there's single node Azure Stack HCI has now gone generally available. So let's take a look at this Azure Arc. So again, landing zone accelerators, those keywords there. So Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes gives customers tools to accelerate and simplify hybrid and multi-cloud. So in other words, we can deploy an AKS or a Kubernetes cluster effectively on-premise if we want to, and we can manage and maintain it with Azure Arc. And there's a landing zone accelerator to help us get there. So we'll have to check that out at some stage. There's a business critical service tier for Azure Arc enabled SQL managed instance to deliver strong business continuity requirements, which is great to see. And the other announcement in terms of Azure Stack HCI, it's a hardware and software stack that customers have been using to extend their Azure cloud to their physical location, that private cloud, that private data center. Standard hardware configuration is optimized for scale and power, and the new single node offering provides additional options for business scenarios with different requirements, which is cool to see. I can't remember how many, I think it might have been 4 nodes, don't quote me on that, but it used to be that you could deploy Azure Stack HCI, but it had to be in a multiple node, and it looks like now this announcement means that we can run a single Azure Stack HCI hyper-converged infrastructure box, which clearly, if you've got those workloads that maybe, backup and business continuity isn't a thing that you need to worry about so much, then a single node will enable users to and businesses to run services locally to them, which is cool to see. So there we go. Additional benefits include smaller Azure Stack HCI solutions for environments with physical space constraints or do not require that built-in resiliency, that business continuity stuff. Things like retail stores and branch offices, great. Smaller footprint to reduce hardware and operational costs. Obviously, that's great. And then solutions can be built to scale, ranging from a single node up to 16 nodes if needed. Awesome to see. So that is the hybrid announcements. If we look at Azure infrastructure, we've got some Microsoft and F5 launch NGINX for Azure. Microsoft Azure DSSV3 virtual machines with Intel software guard extensions now generally available at confidential compute type. And then Microsoft and Dynatrace partner to launch Dynatrace for Azure and new features in Azure Monitor. So Azure Monitor is introducing a feature to improve customers' ability to detect, diagnose and observe issues in apps and infrastructure, AI ops powered smart apps in application insights, helps users visually spot performance bottlenecks or failure hotspots across a distributed app. This feature is now in preview. Good to see. One announcement on the Azure migration and modernization piece, which is all around helping us kind of try and streamline and simplify those migrations and app modernization. So we've got, what have we got now? So new features from Microsoft for migration is agentless discovery and grouping of dependent Hyper-V virtual machines and physical servers to ensure all requirement components are identified and included during a move to Azure. That has gone GA. That's interesting because that was out a little while back now. So it's interesting to see that's finally gone GA. Azure SQL assessment improvements for better customer experience. So assessments now include recommendations for SQL Server on Azure VMs and support for Hyper-V VMs and physical stacks, along with already existing assessments for Azure SQL Managed Instance and Azure SQL Database. That is now in preview. We can pause and resume. A migration function has been included now, so we can provide that additional control over the migration window. This mechanism can be used to schedule migrations during off-peak periods, and that is in preview as well. In addition to that, from a migration, the following update pertaining to ASP.NET and Java apps is also in preview. So the discovery, assessment, and modernization of those ASP.NET web apps to move them into the native kind of Azure App Services. We can discover and modernize ASP.NET apps, web apps to AKS if we want to. We can discover Java apps running on Apache Tomcat as well. So great to see. I mean, just the ability to use some of this tooling to go and do that discovery and help us transform and modernize our apps into a cloud platform is fantastic. Okay, developer tools and DevOps. As you can imagine, there's quite a few. One that stood out is this interesting concept of DevBox, which is great to see, but we'll have a quick read about that in a second. GitHub OpenID Connect with Azure AD Workload Identity Federations available. We've got .NET Multi-Platform App UI as now GA, and updates to GitHub CoPilot and preview of next generation AI tools. So yeah, I think we'll kick things off with the DevBox. So in terms of if you are in the software development world, which is, is different to my day job, but historically it's been tricky to get a developer up and running, get them a machine with the various pre-built libraries, frameworks, tools, binaries, whatever it may be, installed and up and running on their machine, and keep that uniform across your organization. It's always been one of those difficult things to manage and maintain. So the idea behind DevBox is to give that self-service access to high-performance cloud-based workstations for developers. They can run up on the fly. We can define what features we need in that dev environment. So, like I say, both the Microsoft DevBox and the deployment environments, they're going to make it easier for developer teams to quickly spin up app infrastructure with project-based templates that establish consistency and best practices. So it's great to see. That's an interesting thing. And I believe that's built on top of, obviously, containerized workloads that will containerize and run those applications, that workspace effectively. Let's have a quick look at this GitHub CoPilot preview the next generation. So CoPilot came out in preview quite a few months ago now. I remember sitting down with Sam Rowan doing a bit of a walkthrough and him taking me through some of these things. Now, this OpenAI codex around kind of a model that kind of looks across GitHub as a platform and helps to fill in and complete programming tasks that you may have. It's great to see. So the CoPilot usage data from the technical preview and updates on general availability, information on the research project CoPilot Explain, which translates code into natural language descriptions, helping novice developers or those working with an unfamiliar code base. And look, it's fantastic for people like myself who aren't 9-to-5 developers, who aren't constantly in a coding IDE or whatever it might be. If you're trying to look and build something from or learn a language, these kind of AI-powered ability to explain what a piece of code is doing and convert that to natural language help people like me no end. I would very much consider myself to be a novice developer or a hobbyist more than anything. These kind of concepts and features will help out no end. So there are some demos and the associated code will be available to Microsoft Build attendees on GitHub. So if you did attend, you can get those on GitHub. And attendees will also get unlimited access to Codex models from OpenAPI for 3 months and free tokens to use on their publicly available models on OpenAI's API. Brilliant. Awesome to see. And that kind of covers off, I know I've skipped over quite a few there, but that kind of covers off the Azure-related updates from Build this year. Just jumping into one or two others. So Microsoft Learn. There's chat training and certification portfolio has been enhanced with new and updated training and certifications to offer a wide range of benefits for users. So there's updates that include cloud games. We've got exam readiness zone, cert renewals, Power Automate RPA, which is robotic process automation, developer associate exam. We've got Microsoft Certified Customer Data Platform, cybersecurity, that's the SC 100 exam, Exchange Online Support Engineer Specialty, Azure Enterprise Data Analyst Associate. So some great certs being added to the kit bag there to take us in various different directions as well, which is cool to see. I'm going to skip over, I don't want to skip over Tool, Loop and Teams, but look, take a look at those if you're interested. Obviously grab the Book of News. Power Platform, some really great noise and news coming out about Power Platform, and that whole suite of products is growing from strength to strength. But some of the announcements are fantastic to see, and it's certainly an area that it's really going to help those citizen developer community get up to speed and start developing things, applications, services, reporting, bots, PVA, Power Virtual Agents, those kinds of things, literally with minimal to no code. So it's great to see. And finally, Microsoft Edge and Windows updates. So updates to Windows 11 across web, mobile, and native development, and updates to ads and waitlists for Microsoft Store. That are there for new enhancements to the platform. So look, it's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the Book of News for Build 2022. Go and check this out. Like I say, Google the Book of News 2022. Go and read into some of those announcements in a little bit more detail. But I think I'm going to wrap it up there. So let's just head back over to my big face. So thank you for joining me. Hope you found this episode useful. Like I say, please do drop me some comments below. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm nearly at 1,000 subscribers now. It'd be cool to get there ASAP to see what magical features of YouTube get unlocked for me when I hit that milestone. But for now, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you have a fantastic weekend and a great week ahead of you in work. Don't forget to join me tonight on In Convo with Kat Greenan. That'll be an interesting and cool episode. And give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. But until then, have a great weekend. I will see you all very soon. Bye for now.